So, hello, brothers and sisters. I hope you well. Today, we're going to be looking at a case study, which is the case of Burkina Faso. Okay, I'm not gonna get deep into history, but I'm just gonna help you understanding what is actually going on today. Since the 2000, well, late 2023, um, taken over by the government. Okay, by the what the Western countries call the junta government of Ibrahim Traoré, okay, which is a popular government which the population of the country support. Okay, so it was late 2022 when they took over. So I will be talking about the main changes regarding the military, changes regarding the main industry in the country, which is gold export, and also some changes regarding the military affiliation with other countries. As you can see here on this chart, this is what we're gonna focus more today, okay, on the export of the country and how a unique industry has pretty much changed the economic um, landscape of the country, which is something that other African countries need to learn, need to study, because the fact that this industry was nationalized by the current government has led to a significant increase on the export of the country and the revenues they get from the export of gold. Okay, so according to like Western newspapers, they actually think that the current government of in Burkina Faso is a leftist leaning government, is some kind of a Marxist government with Pan African ideologies. The second, I agree with the Pan Africanist ideologies, but when they mention Marxist, I mean, they are more nationalist than Marxist, okay? And when you look at what the government is doing, they're not necessarily following the steps of Marxism, but what they're doing is they are basically sharing the revenues of the country with the population and making sure that the population benefits from these economic improvements in the country. So, according to the Western media, Ibrahim Traoré, which is the military leader that basically led the removal of the previous government and also the main confrontations with France, political confrontations, the Western journalists they believe that he is maintaining a firm leadership in the country because he's a wartime leader. Okay, and obviously he came into power during a difficult time in the country where there was very high security concerns regarding regarding terrorist groups that were present in the country. Recently, we found out with the revelations from US aid that the previous administration of Joe Biden, this specific branch of the US government, they were funding jihadists, extremists in countries like Mali, in countries like Somalia, and of course in Burkina Faso. And you will see how all this is linked anyways. I'll explain later during the video, okay? So the the Western media says that his administration has fostered pro-government propaganda through both traditional media and social media platforms as well. Um, they mainly focus on the fact that he's a military guy, the fact that he called for general mobilization, for example, in April 2023, and they see this as something negative, okay, as always. But obviously, the country was going through a lot of problems. Many individuals were getting unalive in the country, and um, the general mobilization, although it was popular, yeah, it was really popular. It was also necessary in order to secure the security of the country and to make sure that these extremist jihadist groups did not continue attacking the local population and taking over gold mines which we're using to finance the activities. Okay. Um, they also point out at the fact that Ibrahim Traoré, he's a he's a military leader, and they think that that's dictatorship rather than democracy. As you know, the West likes to lecture other countries and explain to them what democracy is. Although the type of democracy that they have in the West, where you have a government that reigns for 4 years, and then a new one comes after 4 years, or the same government reigns after 4 years, and then all they do is they change the leaders. If you think about it, it's not very different from what people call a monarchy, a dictatorship, where you always see the same face, okay? The same face continuously running the country. These are political parties, but when it comes to the policies, maybe they might have a bit of differences in the internal policies, but when it comes to external policies, they pretty much align with the interest of the country. So not much changes when you have, for example, in the United States, the Democrats in power, okay, when you have other political parties, okay. Similarly, in the UK and other countries, all right. Now you have the Republicans in the US. So the difference, you have Donald Trump, but when it comes to the external policy, although they've changed their position in Ukraine, they continue trying to create more conflicts with China in Taiwan. So as you can see here, they're always criticizing those who wants to change, those who do not follow their type of democracy, which does not differ for what I just told you before. And we need to understand that not all the countries benefit from democracy. Some countries, due to the composition, some of them have tribes, some of them have little regions within the country. The administration cannot be the same as the Western countries. Therefore, a different type of government is required. And there are instances in certain countries, like in Libya, for example, before 2011, where the kind of administration they have, the kind of structure of government they had, although they call it a dictatorship, it did work for them. And this happened a lot with African countries as well. You need to understand that the culture is different, the religion is different, the people are different. So you cannot implement all over the world democracy. And if you're trying to do that, democracy becomes the threat. It doesn't become the solution to many countries, it rather becomes the threat because it's a westernized, it's a Western centric style of democracy that when you're trying to implement it in other countries does not work. Okay, that said, in December 2023, the government of Burkina Faso, they did adopt a revised constitution. This constitution relegated French to a working language, okay, and it abolished the High Court of Justice, which was installed by the French. Bear in mind that Burkina Faso used to be a colony of France, okay. By October 2024, further amendments were made, resulting in a new constitution being promulgated in November 2024. So the government has also done many economic reforms, which is what I'm going to get into now. All right. One of the things that I want to touch on, and this is historical, you see the whole Sahel region from like Mali, Burkina Faso, and all these countries, right, including Niger, is known because of gold. It used to be a massive empire there before, which was the Malian Empire, and many others. But one of the most notable ones was the Malian Empire. And there was an individual called Mansa Musa who has been basically classified as the richest man that ever walked this earth because of the amount of gold he was able to extract from the territories that he controlled and sell to other countries. This guy was basically bathing in gold, okay? So the gold continues to be there in this region, right? And you have many companies that have been profiting from the extraction of gold, the refining of it, and the exploitation of it. So the changes that Burkina Faso has done under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré has changed this dynamic. And it's something that I'm going to explain to you later. But bear in mind that the region is well known historically because of the abundant deposits of gold that they exist in that region. Okay, so for the gold mining sector, under the Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso has undertaken significant steps to improve the country's economy, particularly by focusing on the gold extraction. So in November 2023, the government they did approve the construction of its first refinery to process domestically mined gold. This move is aimed at increasing government revenue and creating jobs within this sector. In February 2024, the leadership of Traoré, they took the steps of suspending the issuance of export permits for small-scale gold production to address the illicit trade and support for the formalization of the artisan gold sector or artisanal gold sector, which is individuals that decide to extract gold. Okay, many of these and the previous administration was kind of allowed, but obviously this is illegal because these are people that go into the mines with any kind of safety, they extract gold and they sell this gold to anybody, to companies, to extremists, to the government. They didn't care. So under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, they decided to regularize this sector, stop all this artisanal mining, and to structure it in a different way. So by October 2024, there were plans to withdraw certain mining permits from foreign companies as well, and this was in an effort to boost the domestic gold production. Now, I'll go deep into this later, but before that, I want to highlight the military changes that has helped the country fight against the jihadists in the different regions in the country. So they strengthen the defense, okay, against these jihadist insurgencies. Burkina Faso has diversified its resources of military equipment. So, for example, they did buy armored vehicles, and there are many videos out there on the internet. We share them on our Telegram channel. If you want to see them, head there and watch them. So the country has procured several types of armored vehicles. They've get them from China, from Turkey, and from Egypt. So from China, for example, they received around 20 VN-22 armored vehicles, and that was in October 2024, so very recently. And these were equipped with 30 millimeters autocannons, okay? And then from Turkey, they did supply Burkina Faso with 4 Nurul Makina Edge 6.6 armored fighting vehicles, and that was in January 2023. And they followed by further supplies of Nurul Edge and like 4x4 vehicles as well. Then with Egypt as well, they did have they signed a contract with Egypt for FAHD, which is armored personnel carriers, and that was in June 2023. So, for example, with Turkey, this has the contract they signed. It has given them eyes in the sky, okay, which used to be provided by the French before. So, the country has relied heavily on drones very recently, especially on that Bayraktar TB2 and the Akinzi drones, and these came from Turkey. So they used this for combating jihadists. So the Turkish defense company Baykar has been a key supplier, yes, and they provided drones that have a critical role in operations since the junta rise to power in late 2022. And do you notice how they say the junta, because this is how they refer to the government, although it's a military junta, but the work that they're doing in the country is positive because the people of the country love them because they're putting the country in a path that is beneficial for them. So I'll show you here, for example, this is a website where you can go and check this information, Military Africa. You see here on the heading, Burkina Faso boosts its military arsenal with Chinese armored vehicles. And these are the ones I just mentioned to you before. You can see the picture here. To be honest, some looks a bit crappy, but this is what they got. This reminds us of the French wheel tanks that we did see in Ukraine, okay, in the south of Ukraine, Robotyne, when they launched the offensive. You can see all these Chinese vehicles here, which is something they really need. So if they kick the French out, which they had the vehicles and they collaborated with the Burkina Faso army in the attacks against the jihadis, well, now they have to find different suppliers, right? So you can see down here, there are way more pictures of what they receive. Let me show you a few of these as well. Okay. So that VN22, I'll show you now. It's this one here. That's the VN22, okay? That's an armor carrier. And as you can see, they have a massive turret on top. This is basically a Chinese vehicle with a 30 millimeters autocannon on top. Okay, I think this autocannon is able to detect targets and attack them basically. So then you have, let me close this, more armor personnel carriers here. You see here some agricultural equipment as well, which is also used for the building of trenches. Okay, but you can see how much military hardware they are receiving from China and from other countries. Look at this. Okay, this is the build up of an army. This is the build up of a superpower in Africa. So you can see here you have the leader Ibrahim Traoré inspecting these new military vehicles they got, okay, which they did not have before under the previous government. You have here some vehicles to transport oil, and then there you go, okay. Most of these for the military. Along with these, they also bought agricultural machinery to help them with the industry, notably the tomato farming industry, for example, where the country has invested quite a lot of money and they're making a lot of money as well. And many people ask the question of, oh, hold on, why this wasn't done by the previous government, right? And why is now when they are obtaining all these military hardware? Well, because they did rely on France for the security, which did not do anything for the security of the country. But now they rely on themselves. Let me show you here. These are, as you can see here, these are the Turkish drones that they have been seen. Okay, you can see here, this is what they use to have eyes in the sky and to control and monitor all the movements from the jihadist groups that exist in the north. Okay, as you can see here, there's a Baykar drone right here. So I keep calling Baykar. Is Bayraktar TB2 drone right here. And yeah, you can come to this website and see all the images I'm talking to you about. Okay, so we go back here. Cool. So there has been a massive shift when it comes to foreign relations. So from France, they pivoted more towards Russia now. So the French military has to withdraw from the country. Okay, they began actively engaging in counterinsurgency operations in Burkina Faso and the broader Sahel region in 2013 with the launch of the Operation Serval in Mali. The Operation Serval in Mali aimed for the northern region of Kidal in order to expel these extremists from there. It was a complete failure. It didn't work. So the operation aimed to help the Malian government fight against insurgents and jihadist groups. And over time, the operation expanded into Operation Barkhane, which is more known, okay, which was a broader counter-terrorism initiative across the Sahel, including Burkina Faso. So the French forces, they operated under this umbrella from around 2014 until 2023. And they were providing training, logistical support, and direct combat operations alongside the local forces. And believe me, when I say the kind of training they were receiving was crap, you actually need to believe me. If I show you the videos where you see the Malian soldiers using sticks and using the voice tra 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 to imitate the use of a gun and the shooting of a gun, you'll be surprised. These videos are there. They are on my Telegram channel. You can watch them. They use sticks, basically. They don't even use weapons, live ammunition. They use sticks. And the French, the kind of training you see is the kind of training you receive in some kind of summer camp, basically. All right. So, despite the French efforts, the jihadist violence continued to escalate. Okay, for all these years, they continue to escalate. We're talking about 10 years of French operations in the country. This prompted the eventual withdrawal of the French forces from Burkina Faso in early 2023, which was ordered by the Ibrahim Traoré government, and the people of Burkina Faso, together with the government, they did kicked out the French troops, and they just completely dislike them. You can see the videos on my Telegram channel on how the local population, which is basically asking them to leave the country now. So the French forces have been in the region for nearly a decade, but the departure did mark a significant shift in the country's foreign and defense policies. So they got closer ties to Russia and to Turkey now, and also to China. So in place of the French military support, Burkina Faso has sought closer ties with Russia, and they even welcomed the Wagner Group, just like the Malian government did when they took power through similar means, okay? That was back in 2024. The war in Ukraine was ongoing as well. And that's when the Wagner Group had loads of problems with the Russian military, where we saw the leader of the Wagner Group, let's say the owner of the Wagner Group, being losing his life in a plane accident, all right? And then the group itself, they split up, and many of them joined the army as, in some cases, as the elite forces or as the assault units that conducted the most perfect assaults that you've seen in the war in Ukraine, and to be honest, in many other wars. These soldiers are well experienced. They know exactly what they're doing. And as a private security company, they saw the opportunities in Africa, and they move in certain countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, and they're signing contracts to provide security and to train the military as well. So the country also expanded its military cooperation with Turkey, as I saw you know, particularly in the realm of drone warfare, and is reportedly aligning more with regional powers such as Mali and Guinea, and also with Chad. We've seen that as well. We've seen them aligning with Niger as well. Okay, these countries have many similarities anyways. As I say, that used to be part of this one empire. So these guys are brothers and sister. They really have close ties. So it did make sense that they come together as one military alliance, and together combat the threat of this jihadist group. You need to understand that these jihadist groups were not in the country before. Many of them went down to these countries in the Sahel after the 2011 bombing of Libya by NATO, by the United Kingdom, by France, by the United States, which we saw the removal of the Gaddafi government and his unaliving along with some of his family members as well. And you can see what was the result of Libya. Libya was a prosperous nation. It was the most prosperous nation in Africa. And the leader, Muammar Gaddafi, he had a vision for the continent, for his country. The people of Libya live well. Okay, they have cheap gas, sorry, they have cheap oil, I mean petrol. They have a lot of funding from the government as well. You get married, you get a car, you want to study overseas, the government will finance all that. And if you see what Libya is today, after the Western government say that they were bringing democracy to the country, and all they've done is destroy it and make it a failed state, completely failed state. And they've forgotten about it now, after bombing it, after removing Gaddafi, which was the main person stopping Western organizations like AFRICOM, for example, from expanding within the African continent. Anyways, so there were also social policies and social policies that were changed in the country. So one that the West is really concerned about is the criminalization of homosexuality. Obviously, the country is predominantly uh, Muslim. Okay, the people follow Islam, is the religion, and homosexuality is something that they do not approve. So that's something that we saw happen anyways. This also happened in other countries, okay, and religious groups, they don't support these kind of things. Now, in July 2024, the government proposed amendments to the family code aiming to criminalize homosexuality and impose severe penalties in LGBTQ plus individuals, okay? And there are many African countries that follow exactly the same path in terms of this. Bear in mind that in some countries this was used as a way of destabilizing somehow the society, the vision of a family, and in some cases this was kind of a condition for the provision of certain aid to some African countries as well. So it was used as a tool somehow in many African countries, and many countries decided to stop this. Then there was an escalation of violence, as I tell you before, the security situation in Burkina Faso. According to Western media, it got worse. If you read this from Western media, they will tell you it got worse. But to be honest with you, the Burkina Faso army have been more effective at attacking the insurgents in the northern part of the country. Okay, and this is notably seen in the actions. They are the ones now carrying the attacks, something that the French pretty much were not able to do. But now the Burkina Faso army is clearing areas, using drones, bombing this concentration of jihadis in order to remove them from the country. So there was a really bad situation that was in August 2024, where at least 100 civilians were killed in Barçalogo. It was one of the deadliest incidents in the country's recent history. So the government has called for greater civilian participation in defense efforts in response to the ongoing violence. Okay, so they have also improved public transportation and infrastructure. There are many videos in which they show how these Chinese hardware get into Burkina Faso through ports in Ghana, for example. We see massive columns of agricultural machinery moving into Burkina Faso, and it's crazy. Electric generators. You see how they make this money. As I say, as you can see here, from a single industry, they managed to increase the revenue by a huge percentage and be able to afford all this military equipment and all this farming equipment. They have a vision for the country, and they did this in less than 2 years. So it's a really good case study for the countries such as the Congo to understand how it has to be done. So when it comes to public transportation, there are projects to improve the roads, for example. There are loads of buses from China as well. And there are projects that aim at improving the national connectivity and supporting economic activities across the country. And now let's move into the gold mining. Okay, here you go. Burkina Faso's gold producers thrive amid price surge. This is October 2024. Okay, I explained to you what actually happened here. So obviously the Burkina Faso moved into the nationalization path. So the gold production and revenues did increase. Now we don't have the actual figures. I don't think no one has it, but they have profited. They have profited hugely from this. So in 2023, for example, Burkina Faso produced 56.8 tons of gold. Okay, translating to an approximate revenue of 2,841 billion francs CFA. This was around 4.5 billion USD. However, a large proportion of the gold was exported by foreign companies. So by nationalizing its mining operations, the government could see, or they have seen, okay, a greater control over gold revenues. And I say they have seen because we see what they can afford now. Okay. So who controlled the exports in 2022? So that's 2023, 2022. There you go. So in 2022, Burkina Faso's gold industry was dominated by foreign mining companies. These firms, they did extract and exported most of the gold for the country, with limited profits returning to the country. So the major gold companies in Burkina Faso in 2022 or before, there were Endeavour Mining, which is joint venture between Canadian and UK companies. Okay, they operated the mines in Bongo and Wangyong, and these are the biggest mines in the country. Then you have another company called West African Resources, which was an Australian company. They operate the mine in Zambrano. Then you have Nord Gold, which was a Russian company, which was suspended in 2022. They operated the gold mines in Taparco. Finally, you had, these are the biggest ones, okay? You have, or I think it was Orozon Gold Corporation, which is a Canadian mining company, which operated the mine in Bombore, okay? So the primary export destinations, as you can see here, there were Switzerland, the United Arab Emirates, then you also have India, you have Mali, and you have Uganda, okay? Although Mali's got gold, some of the gold were to Mali as well. Then India, as you know, Indians, they love gold. So they bought quite a lot of gold from the country as well. So before the nationalization, Burkina Faso government received minimal revenue compared to the total value of gold extracted and exported by these foreign firms. Second, show you here. So let's look at the gold production in 2023, and then let's estimate how much they're doing in 2024. So the gold production in tons in 2023 was 56.8 tons. The gold price in the market per ounce in 2023, the maximum was 2,473. This is how much some of the companies were selling it at the international market. So the revenue in France CFA was 2,841 billion France CFA, which is around 4.5 billion USD. So a significant profit of these revenues were made and were obtained by foreign companies, which what they did is they took this money outside of the country. They did not invest it in the country like Burkina Faso is doing today. So let's estimate that the gold production has increased in Burkina Faso in 2024 last year. We don't have the exact figures, okay? I don't have the subscription to I don't have the subscription to these, okay, to the OEC, so I won't be able to see it. And I doubt they have this information anyways. But let's say if it was 56.8 in 2023, let's round it up to 60 tons in 2024, okay? So let's keep the same market value, which was 2,473 in 2023. That was the highest one, okay? So the total revenues that the government would have done, okay, is around 3,045 billion francs CFA, okay, which is not a huge difference compared to 2023. But the difference, sorry, this is approximately 4.9 billion. So in 2023, we know was 4.5 billion. In 2024, let's estimate 4.9 billion. Now, the 4.5 billion was mainly made by these private companies, and the government barely received 23% of the revenues, okay? So in 2024, if we estimate it and we include that increase, okay, of around 3.2% on the total tons that they produce, all these profits went directly to the government due to the nationalization process of the gold mining industry. Okay, this was the main industry, and what the government of Ibrahim Traoré did is nationalize it, take it under control of the government, and benefit hugely from the profits of this industry, and invest hugely, one, in the security of the country, two, in the economy of the country, mainly in agriculture and construction. These are industries that are required in order to see some improvement in the country, and the military in order to make sure that the country is secure. Okay, so let's do a comparison again. As I told you, Israel, the price of uns was 24,473. So as I say, 4.5 billion received by foreign companies. The government receiving 23% of this to 4.9 billion USD. Okay, so we can conclude here that the with the nationalization process, the gold mining sector in Burkina Faso could retain a larger share of the profits if the country maintains the current level of gold production and prices remain steady. So revenues in 2024 could see an increase of approximately 400 million USD compared to the 2023 levels. This will allow the government to reinvest these funds into other infrastructure and development projects, which is something that they are already doing. Okay, so the French military was present in the country for many years. Okay, and this was somehow imposing control over the government on the country. Okay, putting pressure on every single decision they wanted to make. Now, after this military coup, although I'm not a fan of military coups at all, in certain African countries, we've seen that it is necessary if you want to have a monumental change in the country, such as the one we see in Burkina Faso. Okay, so let's say the French military, which have been in the region for nearly a decade, and they began engaging with counterinsurgency operations since 2023. Okay, we've seen the Operation Serval, we see the Operation Barkhane, and despite significant investment and engagement, the French forces were unable to successfully curb the growing jihadist insurgency in the Sahel. As a result, the French troops were officially withdrawn from Burkina Faso in early 2023, making a pivotal shift in the country's defense and foreign relations. So this shift has led to closer ties with Russia, Turkey, China, which have taken on roles in security and defense, replacing their previous French influence. And as I told you, France used to be the colonial power in this country, and Burkina Faso used to be the colonial subjects. So the relationships had never been good. There are many things, historical things that they had to fix. So, as I say, this is a good case study for many African countries that find themselves in this similar situation, because you have a government that is a nationalist government that decides to nationalize the main industries and use that revenue to reinvest in the country. As I told you before, I have many videos showing you how they are paving the roads, how they're using modern machinery that they brought from China in order to pave these roads. The happiness of the local population on what he's doing. Even Ibrahim Traoré, he wanted to step down from government and allow some kind of democratic rule in the country. But the population don't want it. They even conducted a protest in the country because they did not want Ibrahim Traoré to leave. Although he's a military guy, he's supporting, protecting, and improving the country, which should be the main objectives of the government, which is something that the previous government was not doing. Okay, so as you can see, first to secure the security of the country by inviting countries that are friendly countries that are willing to help you protecting your borders, fighting against a threat. You have the French that did a horrible job, and maybe that wasn't even a job. Maybe that was their real purpose, to perpetuate this, to make an infinite cycle in which they act as the defenders, but at the same time, they also allow these terrorist insurgencies to take place. Because as the recent revelations I mentioned to you before, where USAID was supporting, financing extremist and terrorist groups in Northern Africa and many other places around the world, yeah? What the hell? You have the same people that are apparently saying you should be democratic, we're going to help you fight in these insurgents. You guys are also financing them. And I've shown you on my Telegram channel videos in which they show how French helicopters, they do drop APCs, for example, in northern Nigeria, where Boko Haram is present. Okay? So, it's really weird. But if you know what I'm talking about, you understand that this is their logic. And they have been doing it for many years. And in modern times, they're doing a different way, in which they talk about military support. They take millions out of the government for training people with sticks. And then they take millions more to act like they're securing something. But at the same time, they're not doing it. They're just there present to make sure that the interests of the French companies, they are untouched. So as you can see, inviting a foreign country to help with the security. And France and Russia, they have many problems in Ukraine, for example. They're confronting each other. There are French active servicemen that they have joined the Ukrainian Foreign Army, French soldiers from the French Foreign Legion that they have been in Ukraine, for example, and Mariupol, for example. These guys have been there, and we've seen them being alive. So this confrontation was brought into the Sahel region as well, and the Russians kicked the French out. Because the French were present, because the African countries do not have a strong military presence. They don't invest heavily in the army like Burkina Faso is doing now. So, do you think that in the situation of Burkina Faso today, the French will be able to carry out some kind of military actions against the country? Just bear in mind that they have drones now, but they're going to start training pilots. They're going to start obtaining jets, military jets, from Russia, the latest technology from Russia, and they use this to bomb more effectively. They're creating a union between you got Burkina Faso, you got Mali, and you also have Niger, that they have come together to create some kind of military union to fight the threat of these insurgents in their countries. Okay? And all the African countries are watching and they are learning. They are learning because the unipolar world, as we knew it in the past, is finished now. Even the United States has confirmed this. Marco Rubio has come out publicly saying this. Now we live in a multipolar world where you have different powers exercising power control in their regions. So when that happens, that means that the African countries have other powers, okay, that they can rely on, such as China, such as Russia, and not even Turkey, which is a member of NATO anyways. But as you can see here, the coup helped changing the situation in the country. When you remove corrupt politicians, that they were getting 20% of the revenues from gold, and they were happy with this. Minimal investment on the infrastructure of the country, minimal investment of the public services of the country, minimal investment in the industries of the country. Then you got a government that comes in, removes them completely, okay? They remove the French, who are the French as well. And now, they're exercising complete control over the mining industry and the export and the selling at the international market. There's no middleman anymore. There are no French, Australian, or UK companies that are acting as the middlemen, which they're getting 80% of the revenue, okay? Now, let's say 70% of that revenue, it goes directly to the government. This is a huge increase. As you can see here, 85.9% of the total exports of the country is gold. And I show you the amount of revenue they get. So imagine that every month how much they're getting. And all this money is being reinvested in the country, which is something the previous government did not do. They did not do that. Now the people are happy. They can see new jobs. Yeah, they are creating more industry, like the creation of what was it? Yeah, this tomato farming and other agricultural products. Okay, I think they're also doing flour. They're doing many things, which is helping the industries of their country. And not only that, they are trying to help the neighbors as well. And it's true that the vision of Ibrahim Traoré is some kind of Pan-Africanist view, okay, or vision. But this is Pan-Africanist. This is what the African countries need, okay? And they don't need some kind of Eurocentric style democratic view, some Eurocentric style Marxist view. That is something that is created by the Africans and is based on the current situation of the African countries, and is based on the culture, is based on the history, is based on the roots. Okay, this is what's gonna be more effective for them as a political system. Okay, so you can see, you do that, you bring foreign countries that can help you fight in that threat. Then you you nationalize the key sectors in order to increase your revenues. Then you invest in the people, education, infrastructure, industries. Then you invest in the military. You improve your military. You increase it. You bring military hardware, which is at the standards of the current times. Okay. Then after that, that's it. You change the country completely. And sometimes politicians, okay, they're the ones who create these problems. They're the ones that are corrupt. And let's look at Burkina Faso historically. This is the country where Thomas Sankara came from, all right? Although he was unalived by his best friend, who betrayed the nation, and he was in power for many years, now into exile, okay? The people have been mourning the unaliving of Thomas Sankara for all these years. And Ibrahim Traoré's ideology is based on the thinking and the work of Thomas Sankara. And just like Thomas Sankara, there were many other African leaders that they were loved by the population. Not everyone, of course, but the majority. In Congo, we had Patrice Lumumba. Okay? Patrice Lumumba said that one day, the children of Africa, they will be the ones writing their own history. And this is what we see today in Burkina Faso. And this is what we need to see in the Congo and in other African countries. We see Mali following a similar path. We see Nigeria following a similar path. We see many other African countries that they have seen this formula of kicking out the French or the foreign army occupying the country and protecting the corrupt government and replacing it with people that have the interests of the country in heart and in mind. So this is the case study. Obviously, they have done many other things in Burkina Faso that they have helped improving the country and taking control over the country. Okay, but I just wanted to highlight the main one, the most important one, which was the military and the gold production. So I hope you like this summary. Okay, please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. Okay, and as always, I'll continue informing you.